Hello, my name is Bill Haley for Haley2024, the Movement's Government Reform Ideas. This video is going to be on disaster relief in a Haley 2024 world, dealing with competitive governance. How is competitive governance and all the different changes going to affect how we deal with disaster relief, hurricane, the 9/11 attacks, the earthquakes and the like, disaster relief. Okay, so the purpose of this page, I have a blog on this, is to explain how the reforms within Haley 2024, the movement, the competitive governance reforms, will move much of the disaster relief from monopolized government the way it is now. We have been grown in that way too much, to the free enterprise, to charities, and to individuals. And we'll get into all the different aspects. The structure of the CRAs, competitive regulatory agencies, which is competitive governance, CDAs, which is charitable distribution associations, how we deal with charities, and other reforms combined with the natural desire to help with incentives, superior organizations, and cooperation. So the blog was created in 2017. I'm updating it a little bit, doing a video in 2023, and let's keep on going. And I'm gonna try to keep this down to less than a half an hour. Hopefully you might know what it is, obviously, before I do, because I'm not done with the video. After a natural or man-made disaster, the government increases its footprint in a big way. So we have been increasing it ever since. Every time a president or a governor gets a lot of flack, a lot of criticism over how they dealt with it, and the next disaster, they go overboard and they do a ton more. And then it starts pushing out private endeavors. Whether it's hurricane, a blizzard, a flood, a tornado, or the 9/11 Twin Towers collapse. The government at all levels really steps up. And in my opinion, that's not always the best thing. We need to step up, but we need to have free enterprise step up more competitive governance step up, how that's going to affect things. When the monopolized government steps up, it starts crowding out the efforts of the private individual, the corporations, and the like. And sometimes they incorporate the Blue Cross Blue Shield and not Blue Cross Blue Shield, the Red Cross and the like to help. So that's charity, but that's coordinated much more with the government than what it should be. Too many people think that it is a good thing. Indeed, people need to step up. However, is government the best way to make things happen? Monopolized government. I say competitive governance. It's significantly different. Can and should free enterprise, charity, and individuals take over? So I think it'd be better if we go more to the free enterprise, individuals, and the competitive governance system to take over, not the monopolized government. So competitive governments act as free enterprise, but does the role of government. So most of what government is currently doing right now will need to be done, but it will be done through the competitive governance or free enterprise. So because monopolized government's not doing it on a normal basis, it's not going to do it after a disaster relief. So we need to make more requirements that the competitive governance takes care of some of these issues. So how does that work? Competitive governments, everybody chooses which government they want to belong to. Every business belongs which government they're going to belong to. They have about 12 different options, and they pick one. And every one of the governments has to have a plan to deal with certain disaster relief. And we'll go over different aspects of it. Competitive governments compete for the best results and ratings. That's going to be the biggest issue going. Most businesses want to belong to an organization, a competitive government that does better with disaster relief than other competitive governance that doesn't do as good. Now, doing it better doesn't just mean more money. It means better effectiveness, better productivity, better organization, better planning. Yeah, money does come into play, but if it's done effectively and productively, we can spend a lot less money and get a lot better results than bad planning. So that's where competitive governments comes in. The people with the worst results, low ratings from a competitive rating system, they're going to get more business into their competitive governance. More people are going to join it because they're going to like their system better. So that's the biggest issue going here. So better results and ratings will give competitive governments and more businesses and more business and representation. So the competitive governments will get more clients, more people joining their competitive government, and leaving the ones that did a poor job last time. So competitive governments don't want to lose individual members, so they're going to try to increase their standards. There'll be some requirements that they have to do something, but just the normal better ratings, the normal better results are going to take people, when they do have options, to a better competitive government. Rating floors on all relevant issues will ensure all major issues are addressed. So we're going to go through a lot of issues, but rating floors, I have a full rating system. You have to look at my rating system, the rating floors, and how that's dealing with it. A couple clauses within the constitutional amendment to creating this means that there's going to be some cooperation required in the rating floors, and just certain things need to be done. So if it's being done by the monopolized government now, some of that, not all of it, but some of that will be required to be done. Now, there's a lot of ways to get it done. Results are more important than how it's done. So we have a lot of different ways to do it, and that's the nature of competitive governance, doing it different ways, see who has the best results, productivity, efficiencies, and just planning purposes and the like. Competitive roads. Let's just go through it all. It's like 3 slides here. Competitive roads. So who's going to do the roads and the cleanup of the roads faster and rebuilding that bridge? Competitive charity. Who's going to have the best charity system out there? Competitive military. And the military doesn't just deal with wars, but it deals with some disaster relief. And so we'll have some aspects of that. So what military corporation is going to have that disaster relief mechanism for abilities, big equipment, like who's going to have that? Competitive police. We have that competitive police. Well, under the system we will. Which one does it better with disaster relief? And competitive police means all first responders, and that's huge within disaster relief. So which competitive police and competitive first responders are going to do the best? They're going to get more people joining them because they're going to do the best. Competitive family law, which is going to come into handy whenever you have displaced people. You want the family law practices and policies and plans can come into place to house people with similar with similar family values. We'll get into that. Competitive courts, that's going to play a role, but it's just competitive courts. Competitive healthcare, big role here. Who can do that splurge in high demand times? Competitive banks, the money system plays a huge role in disaster relief. A lot of many tens of trillions, not trillions, tens of billions, if not hundreds of billions of dollars flows into an area. So competitive banks, who has the best system to make some of this work? Competitive insurance, a lot of different type of insurance to get things up and running, and there will be certain requirements. If you own a road, for instance, you have a requirement to have insurance, to have a quick plan to get that road back up and running, because to own a road means you have certain obligations, and one of those obligations is to get that thing back up and running as quick as possible. Competitive food, obviously disaster relief has a lot to do with getting food to people in need. So what competitive regulatory agency, competitive governance, and they'll be working through charities, but has the best plan to get food to people quickly. Competitive education, there's a lot to do with that on that. We won't get into that right now. Competitive environmental laws, obviously that's just going to play a role in it. A lot of disaster reliefs are environmental disasters as well. So how do we deal with that? So who has the best environmental plans to solve some of the problems that the disaster created? Competitive work safety areas. So that's going to be huge. A lot of work safety issues surround disaster relief. A lot of danger happens then. Who has the best policy to go in there? Who trains their people the best? They're trained the splurge workers, the people who go in there in the high demand times. Who trains those people to be safe? Competitive media, we won't get into that right now, but it's there. competitive land and water. Disasters happen on land or in water, and dealing with different issues surrounding that, and having plans and programs put into place well ahead of time will make disaster relief a lot better. Competitive rating system to get, competitive rating system means you join a rating agency, the one that you like the best. Your neighbor chooses one that they like the best. You have about 12 different options with different philosophies of how you want things rated. That gives a lot of different perspectives, a wide variety of perspectives, and everybody does a good write-up, and it becomes some good rating scores from a competitive rating system. A monopolized rating system has a lot of problems, a lot of corruption, a lot of issues, a lot of distrust. A competitive rating system is going to bring a lot of trust because you're going to be able to join one that you like, you agree with, you like their philosophy, and there's going to be a mandate to debate the controversial issues and get down to the you don't have to agree, but you end up having at least some of the same facts that you're dealing with, or you understand the facts better. Competitive charity economies. We talked about charities already to help the poor, but the charity economies are going to be able to be very, very big on supplying a surge of labor hours for people to do jobs that they normally don't do, but they're trained and they have skills to do something. Sort of like the National Guard. We'll get to that one in a minute, but it's a splurge of labor where it's needed, and they can splurge it. A lot of planning ahead of time, And the charity economies that do the best planning, the best training to get people in there to do the skills that are needed to be done, that's where the disaster relief is the best. And that's going to get better results, better ratings and the like, and more people joining their competitive charity economy. And that will be huge. And again, planning is paramount. And that's why we need competitive, because planning from one person, there's negative and positives. You get 12 different systems, and at 12 different systems at the local level, state level, and federal level, and all of a sudden you have you start seeing the good and the bad. That you don't just get one system and say whether it's good or bad. You have something to compare it to that's very comparable. Competitive ID CRAs, identity companies, their major issues are records and identity and the like, voting and just record keeping. So keeping the medical records, financial records, insurance records, certifications, what jobs you're qualified to do and everything, your family law, your charity, they keep those roles, and those are going to be just invaluable. It's going to be hugely valuable. So the ID company is doing the best job of having that ID and the certifications and the records available to where it's needed, safe, available where it's needed. Who's doing that the best? Again, you get the best when you have competition of different ways of doing it. Competitive roads will have requirements to have quick response plans. Competitive police and first responders will have requirements to have quick response plans and a way to splurge. So within the charity economy and within training, a lot of people will train for different aspects of first responders. Maybe not a full EMT or whatever, maybe not a full police officer, maybe not this, but helpers, teams, where you get one police officer and a group of 5 people around him with skills and training to actually multiply that police officer's ability to do what that police officer needs to be done with people that they trust because he trained with them, and then they multiply that police officer's ability tremendously. Obviously, you can bring police from different areas into the area that hit the hardest and everything, so that happens as well. But individuals in that community, some will have that training and they'll hook up with a police officer or first responders or a fire team and actually have the actual skills and not be in the way, but there actually be a benefit. Okay, The better first responders will have people with other jobs trained for high demand times, just like a National Guard. And we're going to touch National Guard in a minute. The military is within the CRA structure, so we do have a military, and part of the military's job is to have that heavy equipment to do some disaster relief, for that search and rescue, for that Coast Guard type of ability. So yeah, the Coast Guard will still be there. It might be structured a little bit differently, but the functions of the Coast Guard will be there, and that will be part of insurance companies, and that will be part of the plans, and that'll be part of people's contracts on, if this happens, the Coast Guard, those capabilities come in and team up with other people who are just normal people with other jobs, but they're trained to get some things done, and now they're saving people and getting people food, or getting people into a stable situation. The State National Guard is still there, but it's going to be structured a little bit differently. But the functions, the capabilities are going to still be there. Many businesses will be required to contract with a competitive National Guard. Now, again, how much that is contracted or what that requirement is, it's hard to tell, but we need to be able to fund the National Guard through the competitive system. And so a little bit of requirements to have some of that capability is going to be there. And the military capability system could release, which is the funding mechanism for the military, and some of that might be for some national disasters, natural disasters. So the military capability system could release some extra funds designated for disaster relief. So we don't have to tap into new taxes, but they can have funds set aside already for military corporations that are designated for relief effort. Now, a lot of things in the military, they're for fighting the war, but they could also be dual use for disaster relief, heavy equipment and the like. In a war, you need to build a bridge real quickly over in the enemy's territory, but that same capability can be used to build a bridge quickly in America after a bridge is taken out by a flood or whatever the case may be. Such as police for high demand. So they will be able to splurge I talked about the police, 5 or 10 people join around a police officer to multiply his ability, that they are trained enough. They go for weekend training, evening training. They know that police officer, and they create a situation where that one police officer, he's in charge type of thing, but then the capabilities of the people around him, they can multiply their ability, whether it's a riot situation or whatever the case may be. Many will use them for quick response for engineering and heavy equipment. So the military people, again, have heavy equipment. The general mandate for cooperation and preparation in many areas will address many concerns. So that's just a general thing within the CRA structure, is a general mandate to cooperate with others. There's going to be a lot of that. A lot of things are going to be spelled out within the CRA structure for competitive governance to exist. They're required to do certain things, and cooperation and preparation is some of those things, and in many of the areas of disaster relief. Lessons learned and desire for better ratings will quickly increase the quality of response. So I'm not saying that we stop everything that current government's doing on January 31st, and then January 1st, we start up with this. No, there will be a transition. We will learn. We will slowly go over this, maybe 5 years time frame as we start transitioning. All the capabilities are going to have to be there, and people are going to have to think this out ahead of time of who has responsibilities, what their responsibilities are, who's paying what, who has contracts, and the like, and make sure things are covered. Utility corporations will have insurance or other risk pools, agreements, and systems for a fast response. So we do that already through government to a large degree. We see utility crews from many states pour into a disaster relief area, disaster area. So similar things will happen. Those agreements will be there. Some of it will be mandatory that they're there. So utility utilities can get back up and running ASAP. We're talking everything from water, electricity, phones, anything that needs to be done quickly. Heavy equipment to clear out roads from fallen trees and the like. The charity economies will be able to supply labor in healthcare in high demand times. So healthcare is a big area for need in disaster relief. So let me see if it's right up here. A CDA could set up risk pools where everyone within their system that wants to be involved could add more money or labor in exchange for more significant consideration and help within the charity economy. So instead of your 5%, let's say you say I want to go 7%, and then the CDA is going to give you a lot more consideration when disaster happens. So normal case 5%, you get a normal amount of charity assistance. But let's say you give 7% of your income over to the charity system, and now they have an enhanced reason to help you because you help more. So they give you more benefits, more people coming in and helping you because you're willing to help them. So that can be in part of agreements and part of what the CDA set up, successful organizations and the like. Okay. For example, I'm not sure why this doesn't happen, but it's just one idea I have. Maybe there's a reasons why it doesn't happen, but I think it'd be a great idea for school buildings would turn their classrooms into hospitals. They already have nice floors for that can be cleaned. It's a nice good sized rooms. You have hospital equipment ready to go to be brought into these rooms. And obviously, maybe this wouldn't be a full operating room, but maybe you can bring enough equipment to have an actual operating room to bring in there on a quick time frame. So instead of bringing a military ship for healthcare, the Comfort, whatever the name is, to a place, turn a lot of these school buildings or classrooms into hospital rooms where you can actually treat people, and then have the splurge of nurses and doctors come in and healthcare providers come in and do what they're supposed to do. Now, training and planning is all very, very important to make sure you have a cohesive system. If you don't have a full system, you don't have anything. Anyway, a full system is so much better. So planning. There would be motivations and incentives to plan, better ratings, better results. The competitive family law groups connecting with charities could have agreements to house people of similar family values in each other's homes. So a lot of people, they don't want to just have a total stranger, but if you are connected within a family law CRA, which means that you have similar family values, that you have 12 different choices or whatever, and then you say, look, if I ever go homeless because of a disaster, I'm gonna come to your house. If you get homeless because of a disaster, you come to my house. We have an extra rooms. A lot of empty nesters out there have 3 to 4 or 5 bedrooms and only using their 1 bedroom because they're empty nesters. So there's a lot of ways we can do that without having to pay tremendous amount of money for hotels and the like. Teams of construction workers that are well vetted and rated high will likely be formed with input from home insurance companies to have quick response teams to limit the damage by quickly patching holes that would likely lead to more considerable damage. So if you have, after a hurricane, you have a whole bunch of holes in roofs because of branches coming down, and you have busted windows. Well, could you get a team to just go out there and just limit the damage, put tarps over, plywood over, and do it in a safe way where a homeowner might be a little bit more dangerous to do because they don't have the proper ladders and the equipment and the drills and the know-how. But construction workers team up with insurance companies to go out there and quickly do that fix. Maybe they should do that now, and maybe they have some agreements now, but I think that can be increased. And so it's just one thought I had there. So this is a full system. I'm giving some of my ideas as well about within the system what they might do. But this is a structure. Competitive insurance CRAs and companies seeking better results and ratings will have significant positive effects. This is the time and place for the rating agencies to really shine, to really give, you can do this ahead of time because you see what planning's out there. But when it actually happens, what's the results? What charities are being the most effective? What road CRA's plans prove the most helpful? What military corporations should get the more money? How are extra labor hours utilized within the CDAs or first responders? How many people were rescued and how much damage was limited? Again, those houses with holes in it that, yeah, it might only be $10,000 worth of damage now, but if it starts raining inside those holes, now it turns into a $50,000 versus $10,000. So how can we limit the damage? How fast were vital services up and efficiently run? Okay, just doing a quick wrap up, 26 minutes on this. All issues are addressed under the CRA structure. It's just, if you don't think it's addressed, well, join a CRA that addresses it properly. Again, join a CRA that addresses it properly. Now, there'll be requirements that all the CRAs have to do a certain amount of it, but then the rating system comes up and say, you did a certain amount, but it's at let's say a 40 level. This other one's at a 60 level, and this other one, high level, rich people, they got an 80 level. They're paying a lot more into it, so they're going to get more benefits. But yeah, 60's proper. 40, you don't want to be there. So the one with a 40, they're technically above that 40 rating floor limit, but no, not too many people want to join that. So everything's easy to find at Haley2024.org. I mentioned a lot of subjects, everything's at Haley2024.org. Please consider a donation to the website, to the Haley2024, the movement. And until the next video.